Org within Siege with Sin, as you say, have some great cafe performances. I'm sure they'll be looking to continue that trend. It's been a tough stage for them. It's fair to see why those social votes have hedged towards Empire as much as they have. But I've got a feeling that this is going to be a close game. It's going to be hard fought. There's nothing specifically on the line now. We're looking towards final standings within the stage, within the league table. Of course, Empire, with heroic beating cowana, Empire have qualified to the Sweden Major. The top 4 for the EUL finals are locked in as well at this point. So it's just about exactly where everybody finishes, and both of these two will be inside of the top 4 that go through to the EUL finals. Navi currently standing in 2nd place, Empire in 3rd, but there's only 2 points between them, Des, so there's an opportunity for Empire here to grab that 2nd spot.
Reminds me of the end of stage 2 in EUL, right? It was just nutty close between all the teams that were at the top. I think Empire finished in 1st by like 1 or 2 points. It was that close. And it's good to see that it's continuing all the way through to the end of the EUL finals. But our bans have rattled through. The only one that might rattle your cage a little bit here, Ace, is going to be the Flores ban. I wouldn't go out there and say it's a tier 1 ban that many teams are doing, but it does seem to be crawling in, especially against certain teams on certain maps. I'm thinking about Chalet as an example when I say that, and here a very similar story coming out. Simply do not want it to be a part of this map.
No, I think we're sort of seeing Flores settle into a nice spot at the minute, Des. I know we came in and we had Lems, quite openly saying we think he's one of the most powerful operators in the lineup at the minute, and he certainly is. I'm not going to take away from that whatsoever, but he doesn't seem to have become overly oppressive. He doesn't dominate every single lineup. We don't see his pick rate being super high. We're not talking about the old days of Ash, for example, or Diana. Who's right up there in the pick rate. So I feel like Flores has settled into a nice spot. He has his uses. He certainly has a lot of utility that he can bring and gets brought for specific reasons, but not always in that starting 5.
Absolutely not. Well, let's see how things shape up then. Ace's heart is jumping for joy as we are not starting out on the bar cocktail site. We are indeed starting downstairs in the kitchen, which normally means it's echo time for the defenders, especially if you're Empire, but for Navi, not to be the case. That Thunderbird being brought along, another pick that we could talk about all day long. Again, wouldn't say it's a tier 1 pick, not everyone's picking it, but some teams like cowana, who aren't going to the major, are a great example of teams who have been making good use of it. Not bitter, by the way, just very disappointed.
You had to do it to him.
Mate, honestly, what I was like in the group chat? I said, I'm going to be absolutely livid if they don't make it after how they played this stage. And I was like, great, we finally get to see him go to LAN, and they bottle it on the final day. Fuming, absolutely fuming. It's like someone just walked into my kitchen on a Sunday afternoon and just pushed my Sunday roast dinner all over the floor and acted like nothing is wrong.
Look at that.
Sickens me.
Wrong with always, as he finds a beautiful headshot onto Nath to find himself an opening kill. Nath just hanging around that reading room door, going to be shut down. And Empire get themselves a nice start there, but Blur able to level things out with a jump out, taking Sider down and bringing us back to 4 versus 4. He's going to make his way back inside to safety. And that just levels things up for busy first minute, Des.
Very, very busy. Yeah, I mean, good response coming out of Navi as well, not letting it settle down into a 5 versus 4 and allowing Empire to set themselves solid again and look to play in the numbers advantage, instead balancing things back out into 4 versus 4. Blur, a player that's been quiet for the last few weeks, and I don't want to put it all on one person. It has absolutely been a team missed performance is the only way I can describe it. But Blur, Mr. Consistent, one of the rookies of last year that we all looked to and went, wow, this guy's something special. It's been really quiet the last few weeks, so I'm glad to see him at least getting started in the first round, but it's got to be that consistency throughout the game that's going to really make or break this game for Navi.
Blur's just going to hold himself on that hatch for as long as he can here. He needs to be careful because that bottom side, his resolution may be different. They don't always quite see things exactly as we see it on screen because, of course, there are variants in the visual settings, but just covering off the bottom of the doorway there, always the potential to miss a drone that spots you out, but he's going to drop himself back to site before that can become a problem. We've got Always in there, about 1 minute 10 left to go, and he started on the sledge just getting things opened up, so that's going to make it a little bit more difficult. They're not necessarily aiming to get kills, don't get me wrong. If they get one, fantastic. What they're wanting to do, though, is make it uncomfortable for those defenders. They want to move them around, because by default, a defender, they're going to sit in a power position, and they're going to have an angle locked down, and that's where they want to hold. If you open up the ceiling above them, you're going to force them to move away. You're going to force them to play in an alternative position, maybe somewhere they're not as comfortable with, maybe somewhere that leaves a gap in those angles that you can then manipulate and force yourself into later.
The thing is, for Navi, they haven't really been forced to move all that much just yet, right? I mean, this is the focus on site, but off-site, you've still got the kind of fringe players sat around in VIP. Saves, fortunately, still keeping himself alive. Blur secretly not looking super healthy either. And the information is starting to come through on site. You can see those yellow pings raining through, just giving information to the attackers as where one or two might be. But as you always love saying, Ace, those holes work both ways. A kill comes through before it's traded straight back out into a 3 versus 3. Secretly, the balance being restored once again for Navi, or an imbalance, I guess you want to say. And they've got to start making their move in. Dan charging his way forward. He's rocking that F2 like an absolute hero. Secretly finding one back, but the defenders went out with Navi just about closing things out, even if it really did come down to the wire.
Empire just leaving themselves short of time. We've said it over and over this stage, as it is generally the one weakness that we see from Team Empire. It's taking too long to get in there and to start that execute, and just giving Navi the opportunity to lock it down at the end of the round there. And no major surprise, 1 minute 10 left to go when those vertical angles started opening up, and you and I have spoken at length about it, and we'd expect that to be maybe about 20 seconds sooner. You're looking about the halfway mark, 1:30, you want the sledge in there and doing the job, and they were just a little bit behind time at that point, and they pushed through. And you mentioned there about the angles working both ways. Of course, famously a quote from Emzo. It was really nice to see Emzo back on the NAL stream as well. Obviously, circumstances notwithstanding, I'm sure we would all have preferred it to be under different circumstances, but he did a great job.
I love how at one point I was just thinking Stokes was like, oh yeah, by the way, Finger's got nades now, and he's like, oh. Like, welcome back, Emzo. This is the world that we're in now.
We certainly are in that world, and we're in the world here where it's 1-0 to Navi on Cafe, round 2. And Team Empire, they're going to try to get something going on attack, and you just feel there's like they need to. They have to be getting a few of these attacking rounds. I'd expect them to be looking for at least 2, if not 3, try and level things out maybe. It's not been too skewed in either direction so far. If I have a look at the stats for Cafe so far, we've only seen it played 4 times in Stage 3, 74% defender win rate, so actually quite high on the defender side. I do apologise. And so, yeah, Empire, if they can get 2, they're going to be pretty happy with that.
Saw it again, the stacking coming out on that doorway, by the way, inside a bathroom. Saw the first casualty to the stacked up EDDs coming through earlier on Oregon. Thank you very much. It's being demonstrated here by, I believe it's Easy we've got for this game. I want to say it's Easy because Medics was messaging earlier on. It's Medics. Oh, it's Medics doing the whole thing, bless him. All right, fair enough. He's on a real slog today. Hi, Medics. Hope you well, buddy. But again, we saw this in the earlier maps where you have the EDD stacking coming in onto doors and just praying that someone goes running through. Bit of a gamble you might wager, but if someone does run through, then hey, it's a freebie.
Certainly is, and we'll see whether they get the free bit as the round progresses. Joystick just going to hold on to the white corridor window there. Gets himself up to the rooftop, actually. He's decided he's not going to be catching anybody on the rotate, so manoeuvring around on the top floor. Doki's going to keep himself locked inside of that pixel spot for as long as possible, I would imagine. Getting the Wamai magnets out there just to help support it. The Gemini decoy will be taken down, but so will Nath. Opening death once again, Des. This time it's Sider who manages to find and take down the Jaeger, and that is once again going to give Team Empire a 5 versus 4 opportunity. Now, last time around in round 1, Navi were able to level it up pretty quickly, but this time Empire starting to clear out utility, and I'm not sure there's going to be a challenge forthcoming here.
At least this time he was aware of it, right? Whereas last round he basically got punched in the back of the head. This time he was expecting someone to hit him, and my God, did he get hit hard. A small improvement, but still a 0-2 start for Nath. Not the best introduction to the game that maybe he was looking for. No response this time, no retaliation coming in for the side of Navi, so that 5 versus 4 will be established. Joystick deepening the woes of Navi, doubling them, you might say. With him finding a second one here onto saves. The smoke removed. You know how I tend to feel about smokes dying early on, Ace. The power spikes these operators hit. Smoke being one of them, the longer they're left alive, the better, as the time you can waste in the late round with those smoke canisters is so much more impactful than in the early to mid round.
Doki just using that rotate to get himself into bar back storage and back again into washroom, just keeping himself unpredictable. For anybody pushing into piano, the question is going to be, where is Doki? We've seen him in the washroom. We know that he's been there, but he's moved away, and it looks like they've just got him pinned down. Secretly, however, does manage to find Scyther on the long angle and back Doki up, who manages to double down and find Dan. 3 versus 2, though, as Joystick's made his way back round the rear side, Des, and gets himself a double. Shepard is getting the diffuser down, and surely this is going to be an Empire round. Joystick taken out on the white stairs, but the diffuser, it is successfully planted. Blair's got it all to do on the cap cannon. He's very low health. He's got about 15 HP left that will be ripped away from him by Shepard as he spots him through the back bar storage wall and manages to find that kill on the white stairs.
Yeah, quite cozy ending of the round for Empire, with Blur finding that 1-2 Joystick, who picked up a 3k in the round. Big delivery from him to kick things off. And so we find ourselves at that classic 1-1 stalemate. We see a little bit from both teams so far, which show the next few rounds could go either way, but Fireplace and Mining going to be our destination of choice, the mirror being brought along. And I really enjoy seeing this site being brought out because teams get quite creative. You see things like Castle slipping in. Let's not forget as well, there are now 4 Castle barricades available, which Nate is going to make full use of in the round. You've got the mirror to really help hunker things down as well. So you're going to see a pretty creative setup coming through here. Again, really keen to see where that extra excess Castle might go.
As you say, it's always nice to keep an eye on the Castle. We've seen a little bit of play from Castle so far. Kendrew bringing him along on Oregon, but not to any great impact, realistically. VP were able to play their way around what was a bit of an unorthodox basement hole, just extending out into almost the entire map, Team Secret. And just, I always like to see teams, when the opportunity presents itself, just do something a little bit different, see exactly how it plays out, maybe what you can gain, what you can learn from it. This time we're going to have 2 Castle barricades just taking down both double doors coming in towards the mining site, and a bulletproof camera has been placed directly opposite the window, but it does beg the question. Obviously there's some soft walls around those Castle barricades, but it does beg the question if maybe it's going to provide a little bit of safety for the attackers to push into.
Yeah, I actually think Castle might be a sleeper strong pick ahead of the Major. Thinking about it, you know, bulletproof gadget for a start, and the bulletproof camera, shotgun secondary, 4 armor panels to pop down. The only thing he's really missing from being like a must-pick operator is a decent primary. And I think we're in a world where there's so many Gon 6s, frag grenades being brought along. You know, we've seen a reduction in Ash Sophia, and I know we're seeing one in this round for Scyther, but you don't often see Sophia all that much at the minute. Really, it's going to probably up the ante on how often you're going to see Hibana being brought along. So with a Hibana ban, you might just find that Castle becomes pretty strong on a couple of maps. Now, not every single map. It's not always great fitted to all of them. He's more of a bespoke niche operator pick. That's a freebie if I've ever seen one as well, the mirror window being taken out. But again, yeah, I think maybe Castle, we might see him picked up quite a bit at the Major. Really excited to see how that pans out.
Big play from the switch there. That is going to really start impacting on the ability to hold on to mining, playing around those Castle barricades, of course. Now Dan's looking to push and get aggressive and use that angle that he's opened up with the Twitch drone. See if he can get a view onto the player inside of Trains, who time being secretly is going to try and hold on to that location. He's going to stay in place, but once Empire get in above him, if they can start opening up some vertical angles with always inside of piano, I would imagine secretly he'll scarper out of there pretty quickly. But for now, Navi have got Empire just slowed down a little bit on this top floor clearance.
And Rush, really, once you kind of establish what it is that needs to be done, that is dealing with things like the mirrors that were being taken out by the shock drones, getting the drones working through. However, maybe that slowness has come back to bite them ever so slightly, as last round's hero, Joystick with a 3k, is going to be the first to fall in round number 3.
A good start for Navi, and the first time that they've actually had the opening kill, so see if they can power the way forward now. Obviously, Joystick just going off on the Iana, so not major utility loss, depending on how many nades he had with him, but always putting the nades he has to great use there, managing to get a kill onto Blur, taking the Rooney down, and that's going to leave us now at a level pegging in terms of man count. 4 versus 4 coming in towards the final 50, and starting to approach on towards site here, Empire. Just opening up those castle barricades, and still got plenty of time left yet, Des, but secretly he could spoil the party here.
He could, but he knows, and oh no, he's going to get killed out as well. That's such a shame. 5 seconds more, and maybe would have found something a little bit more free and loose with the C4. Could have really transformed how it played out. But that one will stay in the back pocket in the corpse of the mirror. Well, not really a corpse, she has disappeared away. but one that will not be deployed in the round and put to any good use. Is this the second kill coming in from above? Yes, it is. Empire making great use of the vertical angles inside of Piano. 2 kills from that angle, despite Navi being the ones who were trying to make good use of it. Doki on the push round. Will he find the man sat the other side of this wall? They're holding the angle, looking up towards the door, I imagine. The swing comes through and Scyther gets to shut down. A great round for Empire, even if a little bit slow, or so it felt in the first 90 seconds.
Very convincing towards the end, just got a couple of kills and were able to use the space that created to get in and take the rest of the round, having the opportunity once again to try and get that diffuser down, but finding the final kills before they were able to confirm it. So going to be heading into round 4. Team Empire, after losing the first round, have come back, got themselves 2 on the bounce, put themselves in the driving seat here, and they're looking to send a message heading in towards the Sweden Major, Des. You know, that's more what it's about now. Obviously, as we've said, Heroic getting the win against cowana locks in our top 4 teams. From Europe, it will be BDS, Empire, Rogue, Vitality. Not sure in exactly what order yet. The order can change around as the day goes on, but it will be those 4 going to the Major. The question now is, what sort of form do you take with you? We're only a few weeks away. This is the last real competitive game before they go into that competition. So all teams are going to be looking to come off the back of a really strong win here.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for some, it's I don't want to come into it and say, you know, you don't really have motivation to win. Of course you do. Like, you still want to give yourself a good showing and you still got other things to consider. But I think for many, it's a question of, and, you know, Jess and Fresh posed this question on the desk of, for cowana, were they choosing to go to Villa instead of Oregon, where they've beaten Heroic twice to 4, just to try and hide that one away, which has now ultimately cost them not just a major, but also looking towards the EU finals, towards SI. That may or may not have been the case, but regardless, you know, you do have to be careful on that final play day.
Into the action phase we go of round 4 then. Back down to the kitchen this time for Navi, just rotating around to the one side that they have won. Doki looking to get aggressive, and he's going to find himself a brilliant kill onto Joystick, just taking the man off the rappel. And that's the second time now Joystick's been shut down on that rappel over on the far side of the map, and really needs to stop giving Navi the opportunity to go into the round ahead of things, if at all possible. They've got themselves a few opening kills on the bounce now. It's only a matter of time, you feel, until they start converting those into rounds.
Absolutely. It's always the thing we speak about. Openers are great. I mean, look at that. Oh, a nice trade back coming in. There's always been a response bar 1 round so far. A good one with the C4 from below. So the response to the response to the response. My God, they're starting to stack themselves up. But think back to, say, Cloud9, right, at 6 Invitational, plus 29 on the entry, yet lost so many rounds that they found themselves getting bottomed out well before the competition even got into its upper ends. This goes to show that even when a team finds the entry, it doesn't mean they strictly know how to press the advantage and make use of the number, you know, advantage they've then built up. Either way, for Empire, they are down a man. So this is one where you're looking at Navi and saying, right, are you now able to pull together and close out a numbers advantage? This is the kind of round you're looking at to say, really show us what you're made of. Show that you can convert this into a close, especially when members of Empire are still currently quite scattered around the map.
Nath just going to be holding that same position again. We saw this last time, just playing. He can get himself perched in behind the hatch there. Gives him an opportunity to take a gunfight whilst trying to sort of hit him on the fadeaway, if you will. Just taking the shots as he drops down the hatch. But he'll try and hold himself in position for the time being, taking down a couple of drones and just impeding Empire's progress in towards Dining, secretly in an important position as well inside of VIP. We've seen this held down time and time before, and unless you get that man out of there, the freezer push really isn't on.
It's not, no. Start inside of Coach Jack, looking down to that final 45 seconds or so. Still got the man holding inside of VIP that they've been staring at for the longest time, like he was a fine piece of art, and finally they're going to puncture £1 million worth of damage straight into secretly. Him now taken out does open things up a little bit. So Navi not looking to kind of condense and pull themselves back together for a solid defense here, but leaving him out to dry a little bit could come back to bite them. Scyther finding one on his way in through bar. There's no way Navi give this round away, surely. No, it won't. The Scotsman flies high. A double kill for Doki at the end, and Navi find another round.
Going to be better from Navi, but at the moment, all they're showing us is an ability to win in the kitchen, Des. If you remember back to those stats that I brought up at the beginning of this Cafe Stage 3 EUL, we've seen a defense slant towards it. It's been 74% win rate for the defenders. So Navi really need to close out these last 2 rounds. They need to be getting it locked down. If they go in 3-3 at the half, Empire moving on to the defense are surely going to be rubbing their hands at that point, thinking there's a real opportunity for them to come forward and grab this game and get the win. Now, it's not a major surprise to me to see, with that in mind, Navi go into a site they haven't played yet. It's going to be Reading and Fireplace.
Yeah, I mean, the off-site kind of, I suppose, attempt was the Reading and Fireplace one, but I think now they've showed it once, it won't be as much of a surprise as they were arguably hoping for. This is the definitely more standard off-site for some teams. The second site they'll go to, starting on Bar and Cocktail, stepping down here, and then down into Kitchen as they fall through the floors of the successive sites. This one, though, is going to be what we always talk about. It's going to be a likelihood a roam onto the top floor. You're already seeing a good number of gadgets being deployed down, and rather than it being a shallow one where they just hold inside a cocktail, they're going for a pretty big extension here. Reinforcements being committed in towards bathroom, the hold of storage being opened up. You may even see them want to step up with a mirror window coming in onto the double wall to the right-hand side of storage that helps them see inside a piano, just in a bit to slow Empire down. And to me, that makes plenty of sense. We keep on speaking about how slow Empire are as a team. A good way to waste even more time and potentially force them into a Hail Mary push in the dying seconds is to waste as much time as possible on the top floor. So I like this coming out of Navi.
Doke looking to get aggressive, and this is when he can be at his most dangerous, but Empire are well ready for it as he takes out the slat of the barricade there. An absolute hail of bullets comes in towards him, and then, uncharacteristic for Doke, just misses a few shots there, has the opportunity onto Shepard, but is unable to take it. It's not an easy fight to win over that sort of distance, but even worse than not win it, Des, he's going to lose it as Shepard manages to find him with the headshot on the reverse angle, and even hits him with a bit of banter in the chat there. If you remember, Doke, he told Joystick to wake up, and he's just had it fired right back at him.
I won't be asleep on that one much longer, that's for sure as well. Getting slammed there on the start. So, again, we're in that situation where we're talking about the starting numbers advantage for Empire, but that's all well and good as long as you can move with some form of pace. They've still got to try and deal with the setup coming out of Navi. They want the shields gone here. Gonsik's going to do the work for them. I was just checking, I believe, if any ADSs were scattered around that might impede them in getting that one removed. They're now moving their way through the entirety of the top floor. Mute jammers, gadgets, all being removed. So good work being done by Empire. We're only about 75 seconds into the round.
Serve's doing a good job of just defending that mirror shield there. We saw previously that the window was taken down by the Twitch drone, but not going to have that happening this time. Secretly taking a big chunk of damage from underneath New Hatch, and he's going to get himself back into sight. As you said, smoke particularly important later and later into the round, so he doesn't want to be taking that challenge too hard, but it's either he takes it to Nathan and he manages to find himself a kill. That leaves us now 5 versus 3, and Nath having a tough game so far today. He's managed to get himself a couple of kills, but not been overly impactful as it stands. I'm sure they're going to be looking for a bit more from him, particularly when they get onto the attack and he's got the opportunity to come in with those important support plays that he often brings.
Absolutely. Okay, good opportunity. Let's see what we can do from here, Empire. 60 seconds to play with. That's plenty of time to make a 5 versus 3 work. Keep on touching on it, but this is to clear the top floor. This isn't to look and try and get yourself on site for an execute. They've still got work to do. They don't even know where the man inside the bathroom here. I was going to say, there's no way in hell Blur should be losing that. Thankfully, he does find a kill, gets traded back out, but at this point, 1-for-1s are your worst nightmare as Navi. You don't have to be able to do basic math to even understand that if you keep on going one down, and taking one with you, you run out of members long before Team Empire do. A good vertical being set up, and I've got to commend Empire for their vertical play this game. It has been excellent. C4 will find one. And now we're in the final 20 seconds. One on the reading door. Saves whiffing out a couple of shots. Another one standing up to the challenge. They had one on the vertical and 2 trying to push the doorway. That has now changed over. Bit of juice to keeping going as now the plant is being attempted. There are going to be vertical angles. There's going to be door angles. There's going to be everything to stop the man trying to swing onto Shepard. And that's going to be yet another successful diffuser down and on the ground. Saves has got some magic to pull off. And sadly, he is no magician. Will not be able to pull the round back. Empire take another.
Every single angle covered by Empire there, completely and utterly set for that diffuser going down. Well played by them, and a little surprise from Blur. He managed to hide himself away in the washroom, gets himself a great kill as the man comes in with absolutely no idea he's there, but then just sort of runs headlong into piano, and you think, it's going to be a top floor clearance. You know, surely you've got to expect that there could be further follow-up players and gunfights to be taken inside of Piano, and didn't really give himself an opportunity to be competitive inside of those gunfights there. I know he was wanting to get himself relocated, but you just don't feel there was as much urgency as he maybe moved with. There's on the defense. He's got the time on his side. The more he burns, the better.
I think it's one of those that you look at and just assume once you've got one man challenging you on white stairs that everyone's dropped away at that point. They've conceded the top floor. They've lost 2. They don't want to lose any more. Why would they still be hanging up on the top floor? So it was a decent attempt from Blur, I think, as well, to kind of upset expectations. Did find himself a single kill. The joystick clearly was none the wiser too. Just couldn't quite swing and find himself any more off the back of it. Let's see how this round plays out, though. Back up on the top 4 in Bar and Cocktail, our last of the half. Navi not really looking to come out of this down 4-2, especially given Empire on the attacking side here. Just a little bit nervous for this team, given Empire have looked arguably the sharper when it comes to the guns so far today.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Going back up to Bar then, it's going to be up on the top floor for Navi this time around. We saw them defend it back in round 2. It was the first round that Empire were able to win, and Navi, they've not gone back here since. It was pretty convincing for Team Empire as they got it across the line. They had the opportunity even potentially to put the diffuser down, but didn't need to. If you remember, Joystick just moved around the rear side through Lumber and picked up 2 inside a Cocktail and Bar back storage and really swung the round in their favour, putting it into a 3v1 at that point in time. So this time, Nath, he's looking to have that bigger impact in the early round. I said that he's maybe not had as much impact as he might like so far today on Cafe, and he's certainly trying to get himself into this one.
All right. I love how you've been the consistency throughout the half. I mean, Bar, a Finker attempt in the first round, an Ash in the second. Everything has been pretty stable and consistent for Empire, as you're used to seeing, and the frags themselves stay pretty consistent. On the bright side, Ace, at least it's not Nath.
Well, there is that. Nath has, obviously.
Every cloud's got a silver lining, my friend.
Still got an opportunity to make an impact here. He's going to reinforce that bar back storage wall after the Vulcan shield is taken down. So he's going to just provide the protection that he needs now that shield is not in play anymore. He's just going to play from in behind there on Lumber, just try to use that long angle through the 2 peak holes that he's got opened up, sort of on opposite sides, if you will. But it'll give him a line of sight into at least one half of Piano so he can make challenges. Secretly, just up on top of the mini bar there, trying to make an impression across towards New Hatch, but also on those evil eye cameras, taking drones down. Oh, there we go, at least trying to. We'll get the information game underway, but he's likely to lose this cam pretty soon. We've got men just moving inside. We can see great shot of the Wamai magnet there, just pinching that Sophia explosive grenade out of the sky and protecting the camera, but it will ultimately be taken down. Not before it does damage to the man inside of Cigar, though.
Yeah, great way of burning through a bunch of utility as well, you know. Catching out the charges, leaving them a little bit more stunted here. They've only got the 1 frag left. I believe they've gone through their Gon 6 as well, and no impacts left beside there. So anything else is going to remain standing. However, Siege is a shooter, as I always love saying, Ace. It doesn't matter what you do. It's all around affecting the outcome of those fights, and they've still managed to find themselves 2 in the round. We have been here before. Joystick trying his best to step his way through the Goyo, but I think he just opts to blow it up instead. Doesn't want to back himself away into that, I think, if he does find challenge on white. Otherwise, he will be dead as a dodo. Now I'm going to try and find out where these last couple of members in. You could put good money on Blur being the one holding out around bathroom area, and indeed he is looking for a swing out, but still very much dug inside of here. Shotgun in hand. Doku with 1 coming back onto Always as a jump out came through and will find himself back in at the bottom of white. And thankfully for him, his team are winning on the site. He's now left alive as the final 2 have fallen down. So take back what I just said. Doki has got it all to do, pushing his way up white. There's 1 near side, but who moves first? It's going to be Doki trying, but Scyther on the swing finds Doki and Empire. End the half with 4 attacking rounds. A great half for the Russian side.
It really is a great half, and they're going to be very, very happy with that. Moving on to the defense is a real opportunity for them to just get this lockdown and finish stage 3 and 2021 with a great win. It will secure them 2nd place, of course, here in stage 3, and it will also give them an opportunity to move into 2nd place overall in the 2021 standings, as I mentioned at the beginning of the day. So still plenty to play for Empire here. Navi, of course, had a tough time there in that first half. Last round, Doki in a 1v2. He's one of those players that you know is always capable of pulling it off, but just such a tough situation for him trying to push back up White Stairs, especially when Empire knew pretty much exactly where he was coming from. They'd been the jump out by the operator that it was. I'm sure they will have known that it was Doki, and they'll have known that somebody's got to come back up one of these two sets of stairs. So that's all we need to watch and wait for them to make their move, and that's exactly where they won it.
It's one of those that I look at, and many looking at on the prediction would have said, and they did. Social said it, Talent said it, that Empire were walking away the likely winners. I think, in fact, it was only Fresh who went for Navi, being the classical edgelord that he normally is, just trying to go against the rest of the team and say, yeah, you know what, I'm better, I'm different. And I don't know exactly how that tends to work out for him. Spoiler, not particularly well. But for Empire to be in this commanding position is no massive surprise. Even if you look down the scoreboard and think, a couple of non-commanding numbers there. Joystick always seems to be the talisman player that we'll talk about. But Dan, I know he's only 5-3, has been a big name that's bubbled up an awful lot throughout this stage. And one thing that I'm never really surprised by with Empire is their attention towards the objective. Shepard, one of the best planters that we have in EUL, I think only second to Playday. And even then, that was at the last major rather than strictly looking towards how EUL has gone so far itself.
Absolutely. It's always the two players that you pick up on. Currently, it might be surprising to you, Des, but currently leading EUL Stage 3 is Prano. I commented on Prano's position in Rogue after the first couple of play days, and I said it was nice to see how much of a focus they'd had towards playing the objective, and not including any of the games or plants that have gone down today. Just up until prior to today's play day, Prano had 17 plants, Shepard in second place on 15, and Playday lagging behind a little bit for the stage on 11 this time.
Yeah, I think thinking about it, for Rogue especially, their playstyle is going to be so fascinating to see at the major. You got a real blend of playstyles, I think, stepping in there now. Looking across Fatality, BDS, Empire, and of course Rogue, that it's going to make a very interesting showing for the European sides. I won't go as far as saying it'll be successful, but it's going to be interesting no matter which way you look at it. Twitch, I've been speaking about it for a number of weeks now, saying how effective I think she can really become. More and more teams starting to pick her up. We saw Empire with it in all but one round back in the first half, and the same is applying now across the Navi with Saves picking it up, removing a number of those magnets away from Shepard, just to make it easier for those nades to come sailing in, of which there are still 3 on side. There's the smokes coming through for the Twitch. You've got the flashes to burn through any ADSs. Lots of stuff just to make sure those explosives are extra spicy when they come singing through.
Dan's going to look for a bit of extra spice with an explosive here as the nitro comes out, but Navi alive to the danger. They back themselves out of the way and don't lose any lives to the C4, but they do lose 2 to Sidra as he finds Secretly, and Blur will be traded out from saves, but tell you what, he'll be quite happy with that. Taking down Sledge and Hibana is a great step towards winning this round for Team Empire.
All right, nice. Not a bad start at all. I mean, it's all coming off the back of a pretty aggressive play out of Scyther, but you'll take it. 3 versus 3. Navi have got to start picking up the pace a little bit in the next 20 seconds or so. In an attempt to do that, Doki losing his life out to Always is the kind of dream you're looking for. Nath down about half HP as well. Has got another juice stim he can put on himself here to heal a little bit up, which he shall do, before stepping back out for a gunfight once again. But this is such a hard angle to contest. Joystick winning yet another saves left in a 1 versus 3. And I think we all know exactly which way this round is going, Ace.
It certainly looks that way. It's going to be another one for Empire going into the books, unless Saves can quite literally save the day here. Moves out into white, very aware of washroom, but that is not where the danger is coming from. The smoke canister was just a little bit too deep, and it allowed Always to just pop out and find that final kill. That's going to be Empire taking themselves another round, and they find themselves 5-2 up now, and straight into a tactical timeout for Navi.
It was a very bolshy play as well, I've got to mention, coming out of Scyther. He ran past the bag's wall that was still soft, I believe, and just charged his way into Cigar and killed 2 members of Navi who were just none the wiser that that was even a possibility. I don't know if they felt safe because there was a punch hole positioned inside of the bag's wall and thought, oh, there's no way that the guy would come pushing out there and challenge Cigar. If he's going to do that, it will be the Maestro sat all the way back in Cocktail. So one of those kind of high-risk, high-reward plays that in this situation has worked out wonderfully. But on another day, he could have died running past bags and we'd be like, what the bloody Nora is he doing? However, it's a risk that plays off, at least in this case, and helps them secure the round. So 5-2, as you mentioned, Navi in their timeout very understandably need to find a way back into this game.
Certainly do. And the thing is, for Navi, as we've said, within this stage, And this season, there's not much that they are specifically playing for at the moment. They've already got themselves confirmed for the finals. They know that they can't go to Sweden. They're already confirmed as qualified for the Six Invitational in February next year. So for me, this is, for them, a little bit of a burner. It's an opportunity to come in and say, right, let's play against a very good Empire side. Let's just, they've got in their minds, I'm sure, an idea of where the problems are, where the cracks are. This is an opportunity to test that and say, right, yes, those are definitely areas that we need to fix. Let's try something a little different on the odd defensive round. We saw the castle set up in mining. It's an opportunity to say, let's just give it a go. Let's see how it works. Is it something that we can use to build going forward? Is it not? It's, I think, a bit more of an exploratory game, really.
I love here as well how we're still seeing the alibi being brought out. A couple of teams over in APAC did this, and she recently had the change come into the Storm, where I believe it was the recall that got increased slightly in line with what a number of other guns have gone down. Of course, the Veroni changes coming in. I haven't played with the Storm yet, but the Veroni doesn't really feel... There's only one time so far with it I've really felt I've noticed the impact, and that was when having to take 2 gunfights at once, and I was like, yeah, I could have really done with those extra 4 bullets there. So maybe it's the Storm, the recoil isn't as bad as maybe the patch notes would have suggested, or what everyone expected coming in. But we are still seeing it being brought along, at least here, by Always. Alternatives are normally things like the Froster can sometimes get brought out. Warden, I think G2 brought along a couple of times. Maybe not G2, I can't remember who it was, but a team did bring Warden when they said, hey, we need a shield, we need someone with a semi-decent gun. The gadget's not bad in the kind of grenade meta we live in, like, we'll take it, fine.
Doki straight up to the rooftop, and Navi need to get their attack underway. If they're going to have any success here, they need to start winning rounds, because, as we said, the defenders, 75% win rate on Cafe. They've gone strong. There's been a few sort of one-sided games that have sort of heavily favoured the defenders. Will certainly have skewed those stats a little bit, but still, Empire, from this position, needing only 2 rounds, you've got to look at it and say there's got to be one site here that they can lock down. They've just won on Bar. If they can go to Reading now, if they can go to Kitchen afterwards and lock those down, then it is job done for them. They can put the 3 points in the bag and they can move on and start preparing for the Mexico Major now. As it stands, Navi, they're working on clearing out this utility around the top of Pixel Corner. The shield is gone. The Wamidis are gone. They are getting there and they'll be in a position to move in shortly.
It'll take them quite a bit to get that done, mind you. A number of explosives thrown in, yet the smoke's coming out as well. Have finally cleared it away, but let's not forget as well that my magnets have been changed slightly. That's not the kind of thing you want to open a Christmas calendar to always. Blast a hole in the wall and suddenly there's a member of Navi up there waiting. Knows he might find himself naded out here, being pressed in from a couple of alternative angles. Sees the man. Will he find the shots? No, he won't. Just dipping and diving and ducking and dodging all the way around those bullets. And by the looks at the Maverick will walk away plenty fine. Always committing to holding himself down here and seeing how much time he can waste, because at the end of the day, he is their last line of defense on the push in towards Fireplace. If Navi opted to come in through Train, it could be an easy push in towards Fireplace.
Always is proving to be a real thorn in the side at the minute, taking a good bit of chip damage out of Blur there, almost down to half health. Shepard's looking to just back him up there from the double door as well, but they are no closer to moving Always than they were a minute ago, Des. He's wasted a lot of time, and he's wasted some health along with it. We can see Navi, 4 members up on the top floor, able to find an opener onto Joystick. Nath taking some damage there though, but does manage to win the gunfight. Gets a kill onto Dan, and that is big, but Empire, they start fighting back, and time is going to be the real enemy potentially here, but look at this. Always has managed to get himself upstairs. He knows where the diffuser's located. He's pinged it out, and there's a real opportunity here for him to cause a real nuisance of himself on the flank of Navi.
They've really got to pinch him here as well, which is what they're trying to gun for. But look at the time. They spent 15 seconds doing this so far. In comes the swing, and Doki does win it. But they need that diffuser, and they need to get downstairs now. A bit of a strange vault over the top of the stairs will bite him. Nath, on a slither of HP, pushes up. But they just do not win those on white stairs. Scyther finds himself with 3k in the round. They're going to run out of time on this one. Empire win round 8 and move themselves up to match points.
Great defence, great effort at the end there. It was Amandis' advantage, and it came down to Scyther and Shepard to lock it out, and they were able to. I think it was 2 versus 4 at a point until Doki threw himself over the top rope. He wasn't able to find the kill on white stairs. I think he was a little bit surprised by the presence of the man there, but he was then able to get himself a second onto Nath, and just all snowballed from there for Team Empire with a successful defense, put themselves onto match point, and I really don't see this Navi side being able to fight back from here, Des.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a big upwards hill climb. That's the only way I can really describe it for the side of Navi, and I don't really see it being a thing. It's interesting kind of seeing how they've been a little bit lethargic themselves in that last round as well. Again, 30 seconds, diffuser down the top floor. You spend 15, 20 seconds just dealing with the one man that's held you up there. Maybe a lack of pace or confidence. I don't know what it is, but we know that Navi have had a bit of a tough stage, and it looks like it's going to end exactly the same way that it has been going for the last few games. Downstairs, we head for Empire. And to round things out, I've mentioned it earlier on, all the way back in round 1, those yokai drones going to be singing from the rooftops, or in particular, in this case, I should be saying, from the roof itself. Shepard donning that one out. And I'm pretty sure on the last stream we saw of them, we got to see where they were trying to throw these yokais. And I think it was taking I think it was Virtus Pro potentially last time they played this map. They were there for like a good 30 seconds trying to throw these drones up into kind of the vents that are just inside of the kitchen above the bomb. And eventually they got it, but it's a really cool little angle that you can tuck away that you can't fully see here on the observer cam, but they do kind of run just above the bomb on the doorway that you walk through outside of the freezer.
Yeah, I think there's one of the sets of shelves as well that if you get the throw right, it sort of wedges in between the shelves, and you can just stick it then to the top side of the shelf, or the underside of the shelf above, if you will. And it does, like you say, make it very, very difficult for them to pick up, and they can fight from there. But it doesn't look like there's going to be anything quite so tricksy being played. It's going to be a couple of standard drones getting thrown out, one to watch that front door, and then one sent down to watch the wedding window for the time being. There is pressure coming in immediately from Navi as they're looking to get themselves into small bakery potentially. The yokai drone just moving inside, looking to support the Jaeger.
I think a good shout as well to make sure. Oh my god, always. He's left staring at a man. I think a little bit there. That's definitely a panic of help me, and didn't quite know what to do. Now, joystick dies as a result. Saves is down just outside. And a little bit of hell breaks loose. There's fire, there's smoke, there's brimstone. It's like a really poor imitation of Shrek. But it's burning away. It's keeping Navi from entering inside a bakery. So at least for now, Empire can hold on. They back away and get the reinforcement off as if we were defending Elbow on Oregon. And now they're tucked back in sight. A bit of a calamitous start, but Empire still hold on.
They do for the time being. Just managed to stem the flow. It was always, I'm not sure through choice, but he threw himself into the breach, and one way or another came back with a success story, even if only for limited time. We see the Shumiker launcher going to work once again, just preventing the work on that wall continuing, but vertical angles being used by Blur now, always taking a little bit of damage. You can see Blur just chasing him around the site here, opening up above where he knows that he is relocating to, and just keeping that Tachanka moving and guessing saves is going to hold down Bakery Kitchen. And this is looking good for so far for Navi. Plenty of time left on the clock. They've got that kitchen wall getting opened up. It is now able to be passed through, so they can think about getting the diffuser down inside of Sushi. And it's all looking good so far for Navi.
Well, you've still got Blur up on the top floor, and clearly Empire are not happy with someone giving them a headache swinging that hammer from up on high. And Scyther was originally darting around trying to do some damage. It's Dan pushing his way forwards here as well with the FMG looking to find the man. But Blur finding a nade kill is exactly the sort of thing that you're looking for. Oh my god, what a shot coming back up red stairs as well. That's the kind of closeout you're looking. A 5 versus 2 in 30 seconds. Surely Navi don't throw this one up the wall, Tim.
It's got to be around for them. Scyther manages to get one onto saves, but secretly has been able to move in and start getting that diffuser down. There's no angle that always can find, and it will be a successful plant. He manages to shut him down as soon as it's confirmed, but it leaves Empire in a 2 versus 3, surrounded on both sides. What a shot from Scyther, Des. An absolute worldie coming out from court check there. Nath, he's having to relocate, but Doki in a power position, manages to find one. Can he find the second? Of course he can. The Scotsman shuts it down, and that's going to be Navi finding themselves their 3rd round and able to break the momentum that Empire have built.
One that you look at and probably point and say for Empire, it wasn't the dream start, right? A bit of a mess up where someone's rushing into bakery, arguably unexpected, and you understand that. And unfortunately, not really able to do anything. The Shanker stood there looking like he was holding a fish and bringing it into the wrong kind of fight. So with that one little slip up, you'll imagine this next round should again be a pretty convincing round. Opting not to return back down to kitchen. bar and cocktail is on the agenda. And given their 4-round win streak, I still don't see a way in which Navi fight their way back in. We can see the bread and butter style once again out of Empire. Just do the things that you've already done, but do them better. And this one should be a pretty comfortable closeout. Navi, the ones who are going to be forced to innovate and do something a little bit different.
The difference is going to be the Twitch for the time being. Nate's going to swap off the Maverick, drop a couple of frags and bring along the drones instead. Maybe look to clear out utility in an alternative manner. Need to put them drones to work is the key there. Need to be getting in there and clearing it out. Of course, the Wamai being brought along by Shepard and the Jaeger from Joystick has made it difficult for them to use those throwable utility and the explosive gadgets to be able to get in there and clear utility necessarily. So you commented on yourself, Des, it took them a little while to clear out this top floor of utility previously, so maybe just bring in the Twitch in the hope that that could be expedited a little bit, just be sped up a little bit. Doki, if the ADSs and Wamai magnets are cleared out, can then put the nades in exactly where they need to go.
Absolutely. Pretty standard, well, I say a standard setup, that's actually a lie. That's me just trying to do what all casters do and have some default lines prepped to fill space while you think about what you're going to say, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. No, I know what I want to talk about. It's the full reinforcement coming in.
You're just destroying the fourth wall.
Oh, just break it open. It's like a caster education stream now. This is how we fluff and fill time sometimes. No, the point here is more that they fully reinforce off bathroom and off storage wall as well, despite being on the top floor. Main reasons when you normally see this done is if you have some electrification to be able to deny. They're leaning very heavily on mute jammers, which always makes me a little bit nervous because they're now, of course, spherical in what they deny rather than cylindrical. So they could arguably look to get the middle of that wall opened up and threaten the player that's playing inside or expose some possibility for nades to come singing into bathroom. So it's not as strong as a position as what you'd like to think it is. And if Navi cutting onto that, secretly could be quite pivotal in enabling Blur or Doki to slip an aid in, pick up a kill or two, and really get things moving for Navi in this round.
Absolutely, as you say, if secretly gets in there and just opens up the wall in the top corners, it's going to allow explosives to rain in. So that's something that Empire need to have thought about now. Blur's going to hold on to that long angle, being supported by Doki as well.
Here it is.
And actually just turn and look into the washroom. But as you say, the attempt is coming in. The X-Kairos pellets have been delivered, and we hear the explosion, which suggests that there's at least a partial hole been opened up. We've got Nitro in hand, but need to be very careful inside of this washroom here because with Doki outside, he's thinking about the nades. As you can see, the utility's being burnt out, and it's not going to be long until a nade follows. Now then, manages to get himself out of the bathroom, and he's going to live to fight another day. Moves back in. Dan is absolutely insistent on staying in this position and manages to mute trick out those X-Kairos pellets as well.
Well, they've still got 2 nades left, but they're both on Blur, who's not really in a position to make this work right now, to be honest with you. Look how many members of Empire are stacked up in White Corridor as well. There's 4 of them holding around here, if you include the bathroom player. Doki finding himself 1. It's a good start to get things moving, and the cocktail player is dead. So Empire have committed so heavily towards White, and they have no control inside of the bar here. Doki could go on a merry stroll all the way through if he so chose. 1 more is backed away, so their White presence is starting to lessen and spread out a little bit more. And understandably, after losing 2, they've also abandoned the bathroom hold. Another good push coming out from Navi, and Empire are left reeling in these final 35.
That's it. It's going to be a very difficult end to the round if Empire want to get it won here and now. Just either looking to take the long angle there, doesn't manage to get anybody. Shepard, sorry, it was who challenges. It's going to be Joystick to find the kill though. Saves. He drops the skylight. Shepard manages to find Nath, but will be hit for a lot of damage there on the return fire. Joystick does manage to lose his life as well, but we found ourselves suddenly in a 1 versus 1. It's Dan, but he just wasn't in a position to take the gunfight. Blur moving through bar back storage, hits the man on the reload and manages to just close out the round. Navi keep themselves fighting.
Yeah, another good round, to be fair. Again, it's a interesting hold coming out from Empire. Haven't really seen that double mute jammer one inside a bathroom before, but the intent was pretty clear. And it started out well. They managed to hold on. You know, they were dancing in and out of bathroom, playing it sensibly, stacking members up in White to make sure there was no push coming in through White or through Pixel, for example. They could play for the trades. But unfortunately, after losing a couple of members, losing the cocktail player, the Maestro, for example, that was the real kicker because that cost them all the control that Empire previously had. Navi's fight back is well underway, but still need 2 more rounds to catch up to 6-6 to bring this one all square. You'd be forgiven for still being a pessimist. Heaven knows that I still am. It's been a couple of rough rounds out of Empire, 2 in which they've now slipped. But it only takes 1 to go right, and this game is done and dusted.
As you say, no more mistakes available for Navi Empire. They've only got to find one site that they can hold down, but Navi just seem to have flicked a switch in the last couple of rounds, and they're winning gunfights particularly, and that switch seems to be named Doki. He's sat on 14 and 7. He's having one of those games, particularly in the second half, where he's just getting more and more impactful as it goes on, and we know that once he starts finding the kills, it's like the seal is broken, and they just seem to keep coming. It is a very difficult tap to turn off once Doki starts finding kills, and Empire, they're starting to find themselves on the receiving end of that at the minute. So round number 11 we go into. If Navi can win here, then they will take us all the way to 12 and potential overtime beyond if Empire can't get this locked down. But what has previously been a map for the defenders inside of stage 3 is certainly turning into one for the attack today.
Feels the general way the game is going at the minute. We've said it for a while, you know, Chalet's introduction really kind of got it started as a general thing, but the many changes to operators over the last 6 months or so have really started to open it up for attackers to do a little bit better, and that is a much healthier state for Siege, in my opinion. Really enjoying seeing so many attacks coming off successfully, even if, at least in this game, a couple of them have been triggered by small mistakes coming out of the defensive side. Doki, now he's the one making the critical mistake with Dan contesting on white stairs, finds a freebie onto the Scotsman trying to enter his way into bottom white.
And that is a big pickup from Dan for Empire there. Doki has had the run of things on the entry battle over the last few rounds, and he's really been starting Navi off well round after round, but this time gets shut down. So the question is now, who is going to find those kills? Joystick, that's who's going to find them. Jumps out of the window, manages to get nerfed before the air jab hits him. Now, of course, anybody wondering, those air jabs don't activate until your feet touch the ground. So the fact that Joystick was able to get the kill on the way down is super important to the success of that jump out.
I think we all know if you got air jabbed in midair, it will basically cause the game's code to implode.
The map.
No, yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting interaction to see, but I think the game's like, couldn't imagine how to handle that one. It'd be a strange one for sure. Either way, as the round progresses in now, it's going to be a bit of a tough uphill struggle for Navi, as we thought it might be at the very start of this half. Still 2 on the bounce to find, mentioned it a couple of times now. Empire, I imagine, not quite jonesing for a second jump out in the round. You've already found 2 kills. Why risk a third and start giving Navi a way back in? Blur's found himself pushing in around Prince here and looking to see what he can do on the step forward. But Navi a little bit scattered at this point, I think, and with a focus needing to come on the downstairs, maybe they just commit everything here towards a reading door plant, secretly trying to gauge what the hell's going on. It looks clear, but Shepard is holding close, and he's got 3 smokes in the back pocket.
Sure, they're going to be aware of the potential for a man in behind the bookcase, but no, Shepard able to step out and find secretly just after Dan takes Blur down with a headshot, and we are all of a sudden in a 1 versus 5. It's all up to saves. He sees the man, but cannot find the shots. It's going to be Joystick to close things out, and that's going to be Team Empire securing themselves second spot in EUL Stage 3 with a win against Navi. 7-4 on Cafe.
A pretty convincing one overall. Again, bar a couple of rounds that you're not going to lose too much sleep over. A good showing for the Russian side ahead of stepping into the major. Doki, a good showing himself. 14 kills, I believe he dropped there. 14 and 8, yep. But again, we always look